Okay, my friends, here it is. The Saturday morning live stream at the Garden Like a Viking headquarters, Zone 5/6, Northern Indiana. Let me know where you guys are viewing from and what the weather is like where you're at. Is it I think we can call it Indian summer now, right? Where it's just like late summer, still really warm, real warm, full on sun. Everything is not blazing hot, but just dry. I mean, it is so intense, the sun and the dryness, and we haven't had rain for like 2 months. So if you are not irrigating your stuff, it is absolutely cooked. Okay, look at this. Look, and there's no relief on the forecast except cooler weather. But we've got a 41, 42 degree evening coming. So technically, this area gets our first frost the middle of October. So we're about 2 weeks away, give or take. But we will see. We will see how that happens this year. So far, it seems really warm, like it's going to be a late summer. But the only thing that's really going to affect is going to be the heat-loving stuff. The tomatoes, which are pretty much, I mean, we have exhausted ourselves with tomatoes. I don't know how many more tomatoes we can eat. You know, there's a bunch of them still just kind of dying on the vine. We just can't eat any more tomatoes. We had them like every day for months, all summer. It was just fantastic. And we've got, probably 50 jars between pints and quarts and stuff downstairs of the Roma tomatoes and sea salt. And we make it into all different kinds of stuff. So that's pretty much, we're good enough, and half of them were stewed, half of them were pureed with the Viking blender method. And we got our fill of tomatoes. So we're not eating tomatoes anymore, really. Few here and there, but they also kind of shift. Do you guys notice that as well? They also kind of shift later in the season. How there's like even if they look ripe, certain tomato varieties like come into their peak at certain times. So even if, for example, the purple, the Cherokee purple, it will ripen. So like the first few weeks that they're ripening, even if the tomato itself is ripe, it doesn't have that deep, complex flavor like it does later in the season when it's ripe. Then they have a whole different flavor. They have like a prime. And the not beefsteak, brandywine. The brandywine, which was one of my favorite this year, was not a long-lived plant. I mean, it was definitely not that long of a lived plant. As far as its peak, it really tended to shift and sort of drop off earlier than the rest of them as far as the flavor and the texture of it. Even the one that we did at the Viking North plot, that brandywine also at the same time sort of began to drop off in its texture, that they became mealy sort of, and the flavor dropped off. So part of that could be that our tastes change over the summertime as well. That fresh, first tomatoes and stuff, that's definitely part of it. But also, surely it is, they all have their prime. They all have their prime. Oh, I got a message from Tegan at the TikTok. She says hi. She's probably watching because she is working with her mom right now. So hello, Tegan, 2 limes. Hope you are well. In fact, I know you are. So yeah, guys, and the tomatoes, the only thing that's going to be affected is the tomatoes and the peppers and the marigolds, the flowers. Other than that, it's going to be, I mean, we've got different greens, Chinese cabbages, komatsuna, mustard greens, and the cabbage, biggest cabbage I've ever seen in person. I mean, the head is this big. It's enormous. We have about 5 of them out there, but one of them is in particular really good. So all that stuff is going to be unaffected. The parsley, the green onions, the beets, the carrots, all that stuff is not really going to care about the frost. It will actually become better. It actually becomes tastier. And if you've been watching this channel for a while, then you know that it is because as the plant senses the temperatures are getting cooler, it will take a lot of its starches and convert them into a form of sugar, because it helps protect the tissues from freezing, from being damaged by freezing. And that makes it sweeter and much more delicious. That's why I don't even plant like spring cabbages and all that. I don't even plant cabbages in the spring anymore. Because why? because they're ripening as it's getting hotter, and so they taste more starchy. They just aren't as sweet and buttery. These fall cabbages, once there's been a little bit of snow on them and stuff, really delicious. That's the best kind of cabbage, when you can just brush off some of the snow and pull it up and then use it. That's when it tastes the best by far. And it's ready to ferment. So we went to Costco. Finally, we found one that they had on sale, and it is a convertible fridge freezer. And so we got that one. We've been looking at it for a long time, and we're going to use it. It's a stand-up. We're going to use it as a ferment fridge. So it's small, definitely, but it's not a full-size fridge freezer, but it's like a small, garage type one. Not the real small like office or hotel one, but like a good size. And we're going to use that for the ferments. We're going to pack that thing full of 1/2 gallons of kvass, okay? Beet kvass, super high with microorganisms, nutrients, definitely. Want to be drinking plenty of that. Let's have a sip of this beet kvass. Ready? So smooth. It mellows out over time. It mellows out. So you let it ferment for a couple weeks, between 5 days and 2 or 3 weeks, and then you strain it off. But it continues to mellow. It gets more sour. It gets more complex. It gets much more flavorful. There's so many layers of complex flavors to it now that there was a month ago when we made it, or 2 months ago when it was made. So we're going to have that kind of thing down there. We're also going to have some of these other ferments, which I'm going to show you guys, but I want to see what you guys are talking about. Look to nature. What's up, my friend? Says, my garden relocation is underway, manually moving cultivated soil to a new plot away from potential flood areas like we experienced last spring. Good idea. Yeah, good idea. Get it up on the high ground or higher ground. Says, my tiller is inaccessible at the moment, so I am broad forking dark, rich areas in my old garden and letting the ducks and pigs pulverize any clumps. Converting it to beautifully sifted soil. Yes, definitely a good way to do it. Utilize the animals. Remember, guys, humans and animals and agriculture have coexisted for eons of time, basically. Long time. And as you will see, when we get the land and start the homestead channel and stuff, we'll be branching off into all that kind of stuff, which I'm definitely looking forward to. So much more content ideas, so much more enthusiasm about making content, because, well, if you can't tell, we are not really making content right now. So what's up, Sam Patzik? Okay, we will see you on the replay. Let's see. Oh, Tegan is here. Look at that right there. Hello from Tegan. Hello. Let's see here. Yes, the Healing Homestead says, I'm finishing the harvest and putting my garden beds to sleep for the season already. Wow. That is kind of early. I mean, it depends. I think that if I remember right, you're in Minnesota somewhere. Then it would make sense. You probably it's probably getting cooler there. Here we have not, we've not been out to the Viking North plot in several weeks. Things have just taken precedence over that, because all the harvesting's done basically, and so all the have to do stuff, it's like, okay, we can lighten up on doing some of the stuff for now, but we have to get back out there soon and plant the cover crop for next year, which this year we are going back to my favorite cover crops combo ever, and that is clover and winter rye. So we are going to be utilizing that out there. And guys, winter rye will sprout even when the ground is like almost frozen. I mean, winter rye sprouts, and you just need it to sprout a little bit. You're not looking for a lot of growth in your spring or in your fall planted cover crop. You're just looking for enough growth to overwinter and to hold that soil together. We're actually going to plant some here in these crops, or in these garden beds, because now that I'm all about the green manure so much more than ever before, I mean, just as I learn more and as I do more, um, the green manure is just the answer. And so now that we utilize that method, I have no problem of putting winter rye in these beds because we can terminate with the still handheld cultivator. So we will whack it down with the and then leave all the debris and all the plant material and then incorporate it. And that also breaks up the roots and everything like that, which is what we need for planting directly into. Okay. Over the years, ran into a lot of issues trying to use no-till cover crops without a full understanding of their benefits, their pros and their cons. Okay, which I will go in depth in the course, the first course, about the pros and cons and when is the right time to use cover crops and which cover crops to use. Because I could have saved myself lots of hassle over the years if I had just understood these things. But that's how you have to learn. You have to learn by doing it and then going, oh, wow, that soil is not ready. It's not going to be ready for weeks. It actually takes weeks for those roots to break down and to become. And rye and wheat roots have mild allelopathic effects. Yes. And so if you, which I sort of didn't believe, I guess, for a while until I experienced it in several different ways. And now I can confirm that they do have mild plant retardant properties. Yeah. So you want to, but after them roots break down, then that goes away and it feeds the soil and it's really wonderful. But now that I will cultivate green manure now it doesn't matter what I want to plant or when. The timing of terminating your cover crop only matters basically if you're doing no-till cover crops. So we're going to plant some back here, and that's going to help hold that soil together because we got that loose, friable, delicious, amazing soil, and we want to keep that in those beds all winter. We don't want it washing out or anything like that. So the soil is nonstop covered. The soil back here is covered nonstop. It goes from being with straw, then cultivated and fertility added, and then immediately a mulch over the top. If it's garlic, it's straw. If it's everything else, basically, it's either boards. It's effervescent. This stuff is a little bit effervescent. If it's everything else, it's like boards. We do the board method, which is amazing, have phenomenal results, except the beets are getting so massive now, they're pushing up the 2x7s or whatever's out there. They're pushing them up because they're so massive, the beets, the betinas, which I highly recommend, guys. If you love sugary sweet beets, get the Bettina from Baker Creek Seeds, my new favorite beet by far. Even when they get this massive, they're still super sweet and tender. Yeah, even more than the Cylindra, although that's still a wonderful beet. So, yeah, that's what we're doing at the moment. Whoa, Argo Bargle says, I'm late for the first frost. Thursday night is meant to be our first. Okay, well, it's what, the 4th of October? Okay, it's only about a week before ours. Yep. What? No. Lisa T says, frost date, zone 6. I checked the extended forecast for Indianapolis, and they're predicting our first frost is mid-November. You mean just this year? They're not redoing the first frost date, right? Just this year, which would not be hard to believe because, and so we're about 2 hours north of Indianapolis. I know, I don't know if, I don't know if that's a thing that's unique to the Midwest where we measure distance in hours, but we're about 2 hours, a 2 hour drive north of Indianapolis. And so we're noticeably cooler than Indy. Even just that 2 hours is a big difference, actually. So let's see here, because I can believe that because it looks like, okay, we're going to dip down to the 40s, but then it's going to trend back upwards, 50, 50, and that's 10 days from now. So that's past our last frost date. That's our last frost date right there, technically. And it's going to be 50 degrees at night. So we'll see. I mean, Indiana weather can just plummet. Anytime, what I've learned these past 6 years of being back here from traveling and being in Northern California for 10 years, coming back here, and it's not like in Northern California, if you look at, okay, here's a place where I have been or where I was for a long time. And let's see here. Whoops. Okay, so here's a place where I was for a long time. Okay, and can you see how temperate it is? You see how those highs and lows are only changing by a few degrees every day, and then the rains are coming. So the rains are going to come, and they're not going to leave. It's going to rain every day for 6 months, basically, or be cloudy. It's going to be like raining for 6 months, basically. But up until now, it probably has not rained once. Well, it does not rain once all summer long. I know that. So here, it's like really temperate. You can see like the highs are kind of always the same. They move real slow. The lows just move by a couple of degrees up and down, and it takes a long time for them to move up and down. So things, you can predict, and you can say, oh, well, it's, if it's getting cooler, you can just predict it's going to stay getting cooler because everything is like temperate like that. It's where the redwoods grow, and so it's been that way for a long, long time, millions and millions of years. And so when I come back here, I'm like, oh, it's getting cooler. And for these past 6 years, it's been like, that doesn't mean anything. I mean, there is no normal for Indiana. There's virtually anytime someone around here in the Midwest is trying to talk about normal for us, what are they really talking about? Because I've not detected a normal, really. I mean, mathematically, of course, there's a normal, an average, but as far as practically, I've not detected any kind of normal for the Midwest. It's just, it can be 45 degrees at night and 85 degrees the next day, and then plummet way back down to something else. And then we can have a high of 85 degrees and then a high of 62, the next day or the next couple of days. It can be that extreme. And so that's what I've learned these past several years, is to just not worry about what I think is normal here, and to just build the most resilient system possible. That's the answer to the whole thing that I'm talking about. Build the most resilient system you can. Meaning, if we get a deluge of rain, we can get monsoon-like springs here. We can get almost like not a real monsoon spring, but like we can get a lot of rain here, and for weeks on end. But likewise, the same exact time period next year could be bone dry, not a drop of rain for the whole time. So you have to prepare for both. So this system that we have now is the ultimate preparation for all of that. We could get the early spring was super wet, cool year, had good rains every day, every couple days, all the way up until late July. Barely had to turn on the drip lines at all. I mean, it was just outstanding. Rained constantly, but these beds never got waterlogged ever, because the system is designed in such a way where the beds drain perfectly, but the aisleways, we have made it in such a way that they are like a battery for the water. It just functions so perfect. I can't get over it. I'm so happy to be able to share it with people, with the system, because all the little tweaks over the years have led to that. And so now, and like now, it has not rained for 2 months, basically. We had like a light little rain a week or two ago for a day or two. That was nothing. The ground is rock solid, split, cracked. The grass is all brown. The trees are dropping their leaves sort of prematurely. I mean, they're just without really changing colors. A lot of the trees around here are just dropping their leaves because it's so bone dry. But this garden is absolutely thriving. And at this point, I'm only turning on them drip lines like once every 4 or 5 days. That's all I got to do. Yeah, I know. While everything else is totally parched, dead. The garden is just... But where I don't have those drip lines, oh, it's all done. The sunflower's done. It's just done. Yeah. So, Jeffrey says, "Good morning, Nate, Tegan, and Tribe. I started making crock pot cherry tomato jam." What? Cherry tomato jam? Are they tart cherries? I'll never use ketchup again. Cherry tomato confit is killer too, and phenomenal on cheese or mushroom pizza. Nice. Sounds wonderful. Yeah, so we're looking for ways to, this past year, out at the Viking North, there is a tree. There's two cherry trees that are tart cherries, definitely very tart. And this was my first year really getting to pick them and utilize them in ways. So I think I told you guys, but we candied them in a way, except without. So we just took the tart cherries, and we had our cherry pitting machine named Camille pit the cherries, each one, and then we put them in the pot and simmered it with some select spices and maple syrup and a couple of other things. And we just simmered it, and until it reduced and it was like a glaze kind of. But the only sweetener was maple syrup, and they were phenomenal. We put some of that homemade vanilla. That was perhaps the most amazing thing of all. A little bit of that homemade vanilla, and it just opened up a whole new world. So next year, we're going to be looking for ways to preserve more of these cherries. And so the timing doesn't really work out for us for these tart cherries and tomatoes, though. We didn't have any tomatoes available at that time, but we'll see how it goes. We'll see. Lisa T says, "We have some neighborhood island gardens in the middle of our streets and really ramped them up this year. We had a community herb garden. That was awesome. Still is. Wonderful. That is wonderful to hear." I always like to hear about the places where that is working. Yeah, because as good natured and as good intentioned as it is, most of the time, what happens with communal plots or things of that nature is they just turn into a massive weed garden of weeds, and they just get overrun. And so it turns people off because they're like doing these techniques, and I've seen this time and time again, and they've got these community food plots, and they need volunteers to come and help, and they're doing the traditional like method where you just have bare soil and you're just pulling weeds constantly. You're just constantly pulling weeds, and if you fall behind even for a couple of days, everything gets overwhelmed with weeds. Yeah, this is most people's experience, guys. I'm not exaggerating when I talk about this. I've seen enough now to understand that this is the number one problem, is that people's gardens are too much work, and that it gets away from them. And with these communal plots, then you'll just see them. I'll see them, midsummer. I mean, July, just overrun, just a bunch of weeds, and you can't see anything in there. And so, okay, because they don't have the techniques right. They're going off of the storybook image in the mind of like well, it's just unrealistic, the image that a lot of us have in our mind. And we're going from the playbook of industrial ag, where they just have open earth, and that's how they do it, or hoeing and cultivating in between the rows. That's not the best way for soil health and for work input to calorie output. There's much better alternatives for that. And so we had like some plots last fall. There was like a grant from the city, and this is an old historic neighborhood, been for like 100 and something years. And so we got like a grant from the city to do pollinator patches, and so whoever wanted could volunteer and do a pollinator patch in their yard somewhere, or in the easement, And so people, a lot of good-natured people, they were like, we'll do it. And so the city supplied the flowers, the plants. They're all native to this area. And so I saw them all. I would go for a walk around the place, and I saw them all planting them last year, and I saw they just removing the sod from the grass where they want their patch to be, and it's just a nice little 10 feet across, maybe even some of them are like 3 or 4 feet across, and they got a few flowers in there and stuff. And I'm like, okay, okay. And I'm talking to them about what's their plan and stuff. And they're just planting these things in what they call dirt. And so as soon as a grower calls it dirt, you know that they're of a certain type of level, they would be calling it soil if they really knew what they were doing, if they were like in the flow of things. But when they say it's just dirt, okay, well, I could just see by looking at it, and I didn't want to say anything, that it was going to be a total nightmare of weeds. Come springtime, the whole thing would be nothing but just look indistinguishable from an empty, vacant lot full of just overgrown shrub weeds. And sure enough, they come springtime, everything started off strong, and the people were pulling weeds constantly from their pollinator patch. And then some of them put down mulch, like hardwood mulch, and weeds just laughed at all of it, just grew right up through everything, huge grasses and stuff, and they were all abandoned. I mean, a couple of them have a few flowers, but other than that, and I was checking, a couple of the people are diligent though, and they're like taking care of it. You can tell, they've got little stones and fairy gardens and stuff. So that's super cool. You love to see that kind of thing. No doubt their kids are involved in it. That's all wonderful. But if they just had the right system, though, that and the understanding, then it would be a lot more successful. Yeah. But every time I drive by it now, it's like, oh, there's a huge overgrown patch of weeds. That's so funny because I've got 2 weed violations for basically the same exact thing in my yard over the past 6 years here. And so why don't they get a weed violation for their patch of weeds? So yeah, so there's my rant about that. It's all super good natured and I'm all for it, but they need to be a little more, they need someone that has experience, or they need someone that knows what the pain points are. What are the common things that make people, because once someone gets overwhelmed with the community garden and stuff, that turns them off of growing. And it doesn't have to be like that. If they just understood the systems for maximum output for minimal work input, 100% organic. Yeah, that's what we need. So if they understood that, then they would help turn a lot more people on to gardening. Because a lot of people, if you talk to people that had like their grandparents, had a garden when they were young and stuff, they did it the like Great Depression way, where they were out there with a hoe and really, a cultivator cultivating in between the rows. And these kids were like scarred. Like, we were out there constantly pulling weeds in the garden. And it turned them off. And so they don't have a garden. They're like, my great grandparents had a garden. And every summer when we went out there, we were like slave labor. It was like we were out there for hours in the hot sun, just pulling weeds. And, I've heard that from so many people. So, what's wonderful is me and Camille were just talking, and how this garden has been just unbelievable. We haven't even, it's almost been alarming. It's been like there's been nothing to do except harvest. That's all we've done all summer long, is just harvest. I mean, we had the setup in the springtime, but then everything else is just harvest. Tegan hasn't had to pull any weeds. Camille has hardly pulled any weeds. I haven't pulled any. It's just been like a dream come true, really. So that's what's possible. That's what I'm saying. That's what's possible if you just plan it properly. So let us see. Ooh, yeah, Regina RN says, yep, I have a 4,000 square foot fenced in garden, raised garden beds, 2 greenhouses, and fruit trees. That sounds amazing. Laid landscape fabric, and then covered with wood chips. Yes. So that is the number one issue people have with landscaping fabric. And every time that I try to promote landscaping fabric, people like have these nightmares of moving into a place and then having to deal with tearing up the landscaping fabric that someone else put down, and they're just ripping it up, and it's coming off in little clumps, and they're just ripping it out of the ground, and it's everywhere, and it's just breaking off in their hand. And so when I'm like, you need to use landscaping fabric, they're like, well, no, I'm never using that, because they have these PTSD from these scenarios that they have been through in their life. Whereas if you do it properly, meaning always the landscaping fabric is the last thing to be on the surface, because weeds roots can grow down through the landscaping fabric easily, but they don't grow up through. The plants don't grow up through. So if you put something on top of the landscaping fabric, there where a seed could take root, can hold, like mulch, you will have stuff growing down immediately. It'll be almost like you don't have anything. So that's the thing people don't understand. Roots grow down through landscaping fabric pretty easily. But so that's why you want to have just the landscaping fabric exposed to the surface. It doesn't look the best, and that's where most people get hung up with. They think, I want a natural wooded mulch look, so I'm going to put mulch over it, but that is a nightmare. And so you just have to determine, okay, what are my goals? Is my goal to have a super high maintenance Pinterest looking little garden where it's got mulch and everything? Or is my goal to have the maximum output for the lowest work input? If that's your goal, then you have to do it this way, So that's a very common issue. Yep, very common. Oh, this is a good. So Lisa T says, our neighborhood isn't growing food in the community gardens, rather evergreen and other perennials. We hire a guy to mulch in spring to keep the weeds down. So far it's working. Nice. Yes. Well, that's good. VA Green, what's a weed violation? Yeah. It's not like you might think. In It's a violation for there's a guy. Imagine this being your job. There's a guy that drives around in a truck and has a measuring stick and gets out and measures your grass in your lawn, on your property. And if it's beyond a certain size, then you have to then you get a violation. And if you don't do something with the violation, then you get a fine. And if you don't pay it, like, because I would never pay something like that, then they will just allegedly put a lien on your house, So I've got several of them, guys. It's pretty, I'm looking at them right here. And so the thing is, let me just bring this over here. So you can see here, it's, they put this stick here in your thing. They put this stick in your front lawn, and it says, notice, weed violation. If the weeds are not removed from this property within 5 days after the date of this posting, the city will cut the weeds, remove trash, and eradicate the noxious vegetation. Listen to that. Eradicate the noxious vegetation. The city will then seek recovery of the costs from the property owner. Okay. Well, for one, they are grasping at straws, because last year when I got this thing, we were in like a 15-week drought. The grass was burnt crisp brown. Everyone's grass was crispy burnt brown and felt like steel wool. Yet there was some kind of weeds, some kind of like plantain looking things that were like this tall. Just maybe like a couple dozen of them in the front yard, real thin. You could barely even see them. And that's what I got a weed violation for it. I said, okay. Well, good thing he didn't see the back, because, yeah. So that's what a weed violation is. And so, of course, it's a joke. Yes. Pop Perm says, at my landscaping job, I call everything dirt because it's easier and doesn't matter for that context. It's true, it doesn't. And landscaping is very different. And they talk about fill dirt, and stuff like that. But for a serious grower, they would not be calling it dirt, but that landscaping is different. Aw, listen to this. Tegan says, what's the best thing you guys have learned from Nate for your garden? From Tegan. She is at her mom's job right now with her. So she is watching remotely. Yeah, okay, here we go. Big Will Dog says, truthfully, my garden was a bit neglected due to recording and editing, so my normal watermelon and cantaloupe harvest was light. I get things getting away from you at times. Yes, and you can get your first taste of being a content creator, of how it is, of how, especially once if it became your only source of income and you were like, had to do it, it just zaps the your time and energy and just so much. And everything you're doing out in the garden, you have to stop. Oh wait, I've got to record I better be recording this, and then we got to start recording it, and then oh wait, got to get different angles, and then oh wait, I gotta get on this different shirt, or I got to put a shirt on because I'm always without shirt because that's the way I love it. But for filming, I got to put a shirt on, and then oh wait, and then I got to get these different pants on. Oh, but then the lighting is okay. Stop. And then here, 2.5 hours have gone by, and the task at hand doesn't even get done. You know, and you have you'll end up with some marginal kind of not even good. You don't even use it. You know, that's how it is. I mean, that's just how it is. And to set up the tripods and then to edit all this stuff, guys, it is a tremendous amount of energy. It really is. That's why I've taken the summer off from it, because we've been building out these courses for you guys. But no doubt next year we will carry on with the content, definitely, to a degree. Because Bootstrap Farmer just contacted me again. They were like, hey, that was great. A little partnership. Do you want to do it again? So I'm going to have a meeting with them. I haven't told them though that I'm not really making content, anymore, or right now at least. So we'll see how that goes. But I will put their stuff in the courses because I firmly believe in Bootstrap Farmer. Anything from Bootstrap Farmer, in my experience, has been the best of whatever that thing is. They only seek out the best stuff. It's not the cheapest stuff, monetarily speaking, but also actually speaking. It's also qualitatively speaking. It is really, really high quality stuff. So I think I still put links in the description and stuff, so you guys can get that. Let's see here. Eddie, let me see, a donation via CashApp. Haven't got that in a while. Thank you, my friend. Let's see. Eddie Lyles, thank you very much. $10. I appreciate the contribution, my friend. Let me just reply with the heart. Yeah. So thank you. I appreciate that. What's your question? What's your question, Eddie? Let me answer that. One more point about what Big Will Dog was saying. You remember what I said several weeks ago, that there is this thing, there's this pushing. People are, there's a way of thinking that take something you love and make a job out of it, and you'll never work a day in your life. Okay, and that's nice, and I get that, and it means enjoy what you do. Love what you do, because what you're doing constantly is a huge part of your life. And so, I mean, that's kind of oversimplifying it. And when I was younger, that all sounded really good. Take something you love, make a job out of it, and then you'll never work a day in your life because you're just doing what you love. Okay, kind of. But then when it comes down to it, over the years, I've learned more life experience and things, that there's another saying. Remember, this one is even So it says, take something you love to do and make a job out of it, and then it becomes work. Okay, and that one is much more appropriate in my experience. Take something you love to do and then turn it into a job where you have to do it, and then it becomes work. And or it's like, oh, I gotta get to it, gotta do it. And then it like becomes a source of stress, and it's kind of like a nightmare, and you like don't look forward to it anymore. So taking this summer off of making YouTube content has been awesome. It has been, I've just so much enjoyed the garden so much more. It's just so more chill. I don't have to, I can just do something in the garden, mostly just harvesting and looking at how beautiful all the plants are, and reading the plants and stuff and seeing how phenomenal the Viking granular is working. All of that. And instead of having to worry about that onslaught of constantly doing things, making content, gotta make more content. And then as soon as you release something, okay, that's great, but what's the next thing you gotta make? It's like a hamster wheel, but it doesn't go anywhere. It's like, and at the end of the day, YouTube still owns your audience. You don't even own your audience. It's funny. So that's why we've shifted to course building, where we will totally different thing, which I'm discovering. Trying to make these ads and stuff, I'm discovering how making YouTube videos, good videos and content, is totally different than advertising. Advertising is a whole different ball game, but I'm all for it. I'm all game. But I just come to realize once you make the course and you built it out, your whole job becomes advertising it then. So it's a whole new world, but it's exciting and it's fresh. So I love it. And it's actually profitable, which is probably the most important thing. So Donald Hughes says, Nate, do you use soaker hose or what? There will be a module directly in the course where I show in depth exactly how to do this. I used to hand water everything, but I got tired of spending hours and hours out there, and therefore everything just dried up. And even hand watering, you can't do what drip irrigation can do. Drip or soaker, there's pros and cons to both. And I go over that in the course. What is right for your situation? I've used both extensively, and here in this one, we are using soaker hoses. And I will give you the exact pieces, the exact website you can order your little package from to for however much you need for your garden. All the little connectors, I got it all written out for you in a PDF document. So very easy for you to use. And that's the stuff. That is the best stuff. Drip, because it's more like a soft rain, how it slowly comes on instead of a flash flood like the hand watering is. That's what makes a flash flood so dangerous, is that it all comes down so fast that the ground doesn't have a chance to absorb it. So it just rushes off. But if we do it nice and slow, then the ground has a chance to absorb it through capillary action. And that essentially means wicking. It's wicking the moisture. So the drip lines or the soaker hoses are wonderful, because you will see where the soaker hose is. If you look at the soil, it's only wet maybe an inch on each side of the soaker hose. And you're like, what? Well, that's not very effective. What it actually does, though, is it goes down and spreads out. After a few inches, then there's like a carpet of moisture underneath. So it's actually really ideal because it keeps that soil surface dry. And so it eliminates a lot of the pest issues. It eliminates lots of the pest issues. But yet it maintains a carpet of moisture underneath everything, which is great. So, guys, we have had no pest issues at all this year, except for the cabbage moth, definitely. But that's easy to control with BT. But I got a little lax in it. I wanted to see if just super healthy plants could even defend off cabbage moths, because these are pretty much the healthiest plants that they're as healthy as it gets. And the cabbage moth is it's a different thing. It's like grasshoppers. I mean, they're just going to eat the plants. Not every plant. I mean, most of them are actually perfectly fine. Most of them did defend themselves, but there's still a bit too much damage. The softer ones, like the Komatsuna, uh, are getting eaten up too much, you know. So, but like the hard that Sapporo giant cabbage, it's not getting messed up at all. It's hardly getting eaten at all. And I haven't sprayed. Well, I eventually did spray the BT, because it was getting a little bit bad for me. But one or two sprayings of BT pretty much solves it. But those Sapporo giants, I think maybe part of it is that they're growing so fast and big and rapidly that they outgrow the damage that's done. You know what I'm saying? So you can't really see it. The cabbage moth, the cabbage worm would have to be that big for it to like do damage on that plant because of how massive it is and how thick it is. You know, so but even the Brunswick cabbages that we have this year are this far across. I mean, everything is just absolutely enormous. So Dusty Flat says, we had a family with a garden center and I see the stress. Yes. What are you talking about, garden center? You mean like they were selling plants and stuff like that, and they had like soil, they were selling soil and stuff, or they had like a community garden or something? All of that can be stress, definitely. But the community gardens, definitely, because you're relying on people's volunteering and stuff. And everyone starts out strong. Oh, yeah, we're going to all help grow our own food and it'll be free food for everyone. It's all just free. Everything should be free. You know, okay, well, then I'll see you at 8 o'clock on Tuesday morning for a full day worth of work. Yeah, it should be mostly free, except on Tuesdays I'm kind of busy. And oh, okay, well, then when can you come? Well, I can come for an hour or 2 hours here and there. Oh, okay, well, nothing's getting done, you know? So it all sounds good, but then in practice, you know, are you going to show up and start shoveling soil? Because my experience tells me that you're not, you know? Not as if you're getting paid, then it's different, but then it's not free, is it? So it kind of, the whole dream sort of kind of crumbles in reality. And that way we've got to look and say, okay, how can we produce the maximum food for the lowest work input? And then what work input can we guarantee? You can guarantee basically what you do yourself. And then beyond that, if you're paying people, you can guarantee a level of that. But then you have to acquire the finances. How are you going to pay them? You know, that you don't just come out of thin air. So it's definitely work. That's what most people don't think. And I know you guys know, but most people don't think, they don't understand what a tremendous amount of work, physical, it can be, or experience you have to have. You have to have the experience to say, no, that's not going to work. Or no, that should go over here and we should do it this way. And that's going to be infinitely more efficient. And then to do that, but you don't just dream that stuff up out of nowhere. You have to have experience for that to happen. You know, you have to have already had failed many times, or at least seen failure, or at least, you know, experimented. And it just takes experience. There is no substitute for experience. Yeah. So yes, Wayne Caroli. Mine is I think 15 as well is what this one. You can do 10, 15, or 20 even. If you go too high, they kind of blow the things out though. But yes, definitely got to have that pressure reducer. Yeah, Big Bulldog says, now imagine that your job doesn't pay anything because you haven't hit monetization yet and still gives all the stresses but without pay. I gave serious thought about it before, about starting on YouTube before doing it. Yes, it's and that's how it goes at first. That's how it goes with creative things. That's just how it goes. It's you know, there's like creative stuff and then there's selling your time for money, you know, like factory work or something. Okay, well, I'm going to sell 8 hours of my day for this amount of money. It's agreed upon. I go to work, I do the thing, whatever it is they want me to do. I sell the units of my life, and then they give me this amount of money. Okay? That's one way of working. And a lot of people love that because it's predictable, and you can have a life built around that. You know, you can have a life that's built around that, and you can predict, okay, I can make the payments because this job, will give me this amount of money. But then there's the creative type jobs, which is what I'm into. And you get paid based upon the amount of effort that you put in, and the creative process, not the time, not the hours that you put in. You can get paid a lot more than you would hourly, but it's different because it's not guaranteed. You could also get paid nothing, for a long time, but then you could get paid a lot. It all just depends on your planning, on your thought process, on your creative flow, all of that, your use of the tools. How are you using the latest tools? Are you staying up with things, or are you just kind of falling behind with everything? It all matters. It all definitely matters. But for me, I do not do. I'm not about hourly work anymore. That's a very good way to put it, Mom Computer. Once you simplify the process, momentum leads to being more enjoyable. Definitely, definitely. When you simplify it, that is the way to go. But like we were talking about, if you don't have the experience or the knowledge, or you're not being shown this, how are you going to know? How are you going to know? You got to also go through years of trial and error. And the thing is that most people don't, and most people won't. And I probably would not have, had I not had that 10-year opportunity in the seasons in California, and stuff. So had I not had that opportunity, no, I would not have anywhere close to the understanding that I do now. Because it would just be not that pressing, not that big of a deal, to have to learn. It wouldn't be high stakes. Growing vegetables in your backyard is not high stakes like it is in there, like it was. Oh, look at this. Look to Nature says, Tegan, most important thing Nate taught us is turning strangers into friends. I like that. Thank you. That's a very good one. Thank you. Yes. Julianne Scott says, Nate, cool soil with loads of worms. Gotta love it. Oh, that's what you've got. That's what we like to hear. Hopefully you've got some good stuff growing. Okay, Dusty says, not so true, because what you love doing could be your stress reliever turned job. Right, exactly. And that's exactly what we're saying. At first, it can be like that. And this isn't a blanket rule, of course. I'm just saying the general trends in my life experience point towards that statement. Then your stress reliever turned job would become your source of stress then, because you've turned it into a job. Now it's got deadlines. Now it's got needs it has to met. Now it's got a payroll. Now it's got finances. Now it's got 501c, or it's got tax brackets it's got to worry about, S corp and all. You know what I mean? And then your business bank account gets shut down at Chase for no reason whatsoever, and then you get denied this, and all this stuff. When what you would love to do, but now it's like a big job. So, but knowing that going into it, it's like, okay, well, find something that provides value to people. And if you provide value to people, you'll always have a job in a way. If you know how to monetize that, this has taken me a long time to learn. But if you know how to monetize a value that you can give to people, then you will be in demand. There will always be a need for that. And what is the value? You have to solve someone's problem. What problem does the person have, and how can you solve it in as short and easy of a time frame as possible? Bam. Whatever their problem is. People got all kinds of problems. Problems. So Jeremy Ransom says, the biggest thing I've learned about gardening from Nate is the 3 pillars. Nice. Now, what are those? Exactly. What are the 3 pillars that I'm always saying about? It's not the 5 things plants need. What are the 3 pillars? Let's see here. Julianne says, Nate, so I went from mulch to straw, and my gardens are rocking. Boiling heat, dry as a bone. No more with deep straw method. Definitely. As far as if you're not going to irrigate, or even if you're going to irrigate very infrequently, and you want to use the deep mulch, that's about as good as it gets. I mean, deep leaves can work even better if you have enough of those. But the mulch. When I did the roof stout method for several years out at the Temple Garden, we just had, it was hay. It wasn't even straw. So there was presented its own set of issues. But keep that stuff super thick, and it just is always moist under there. Yeah, it's very nice. Definitely. Deep mulch, there is no, that's one of the finest methods, but like anything, it has its drawbacks. And the number one drawback is the pest and insect pressure. So you are creating literally the most ideal habitat for voles and field mice. There could not be a finer habitat for voles and field mice and digging, burrowing little creatures that will seek to destroy your stuff. You're creating the perfect place for their colony to absolutely explode. And you're creating the perfect house for slugs. Tons, infinite amount, exponential amount of slugs. Love that stuff because you're giving them a food source. You're also giving them moisture. You're also giving them a place to hide from predators and to hide from the sunlight. It's just, and you're also opening yourself up to the symphylans, of course, among many others. So, Big Will Dog, $2. Thank you, my friend. Says spammer alert. What? Thank you for the contribution, Big Will Dog. What are you talking about? Where's the spammer? Let's see it. Oh. Uh-oh. Yeah, I shows Latino speed. Yeah, what is this? Are you a real person, or? It's because I set it to anyone can join. I didn't set this one to subscribers only. So apparently some bot or whatever that is in here. But whatever. Whatever. Yeah, super bizarre. Okay, well then we will just ban user and delete their comments. Nice. Maybe that worked. That's kind of cool. Yep, I did, Mom Computer. I got you. Don't worry, we did. Okay, guys, so a couple of things. So we made harissa. Super delicious. It's got caraway, coriander, cumin, bunch of bell peppers and garlic and some spicy peppers, jalapenos, Ivarsky peppers, and then cayennes. Wow, smells so amazing, like a Southwest kind of. It's hard to describe. It smells like the essence. It smells like if you took an entire pot of delicious smoked chili and distilled it into its essential oil. It smells like chilies, a pot of chili essential oil. Wow, so good. So we're going to let this ferment for a while, and then we are going to use it. Definitely. Now this is just a few days old. We've got the, look here. You see, already started. This is just on the 2nd, so it's like 2 days old. And these are the Just Sweet hybrid pepper, which are amazingly sweet. Cannot wait to grow them every year. Listen, let's see. Yep, a little bit. Amazingly sweet. Can't wait to grow them every year. Oh yeah, I hope that they stay sweet. So it's just some sweet peppers and the brine. That's what we've got going on in here. Sweet peppers and brine. And thyme and brine and sweet peppers. So we'll see how that goes. Now this is, we are experimenting a bit with this because I put one in a, we did 2 identical ones. This one in a 3% brine, the other one, which is identical to this, in a 5% brine. So we're going to see exactly, what the deal is here. And see which one I like better. You know, typically, in my experience, with a saltier brine, you will maintain more crunch and less chance for contamination. But you also have a much saltier end product, which can be okay. But if we're trying to keep sweet peppers, then we're just going to go ahead and have them be nice and sweet and not all that salty. So I want to try some more of this Earth Nectar. Remember last week, North Spore Company sent me like a little care package. So I'm trying some of this. This is just honey and then 5 different types of mushroom extract. So I'm giving it a try. What I like is that Tegan will eat it, you know, and she's not eating a bunch of mushrooms, you know, really. So although she does, when we cook them, like when we made those, and Tegan is 10 years old. So when we made those wine cap mushrooms, when they were fruiting a couple weeks ago, super delicious. She had several of them. Super good. It basically tastes like just a dark honey, but definitely an umami, almost like a lightly earthy forest kind of flavor that comes from that. Comes from the mushrooms. Really good, actually. I don't know. Personally, I prefer to eat the mushrooms, but that being said, I don't, you know, I'm not going to be sitting here eating rishis and turkey tails and cordyceps and lion's mane like all the time on the regular. So if you guys are trying to get some, I mean, all I can say about the product is that it tastes really good. And apparently it's got all this goodness of this mushrooms in it. So check that out. There's links in the description to North Spore. Use the discount code, I think it's Garden Viking. And that way we get a little bit of a credit, you know. They also sent us this bucket here. And if you guys are reserved on growing mushrooms in buckets, then try this, okay? Because they send you, and then you'll know after then you can do it. You can branch off and do it yourself. They send this whole bucket, okay? Like this. It's already got the appropriate holes drilled into it. And you take this stuff and you just boil it. This is what it's for, okay? They give you the straw and everything. It's pretty cool. So you can just take, they give you the substrate, okay? This one's for blue oysters, blue oyster cults, remember that one? Then they give you the straw. And so all that you got to do really is you take this straw, put it into this burlap sack and boil it for about an hour. And not quite a boil. I mean, that's what I found is best. And then once it cools completely, just mix it with this right here, this spawn, and it will fruit. And then put it into a place where it will maintain mild temperatures and it will fruit. This is actually much more than in my experience, I could get 2 buckets out of this, you know, but this is supposedly just for 1 bucket, probably because They want you to have a good first experience. So if you've never grown mushrooms before in buckets, I would highly recommend this because it's all right there. You don't have to you don't have to get all the stuff, and you will get the understanding of what it's like. And then you can use this makes it pretty much foolproof. Using this much spawn, you are definitely going to have colonization. So super cool. It's so nice to grow some mushrooms, your own mushrooms. So we will be doing that, but later. What I really liked was those wine caps. Those are my favorite tasting of all the mushrooms that I've ever grown as well. I mean, definitely. Those things were really just like indistinguishable from portobellos, basically. Oh, nice. Silver Sage says, "Nay, I am getting to know my local farmers market. Asked me to be a vendor. Oh, I'm letting you know. My local farmers market asked me to be a vendor and sell my pumpkins and squash. Thank you for sharing your information. I was also invited to Master Gardeners Club." Nice. Yes, that is what we like to hear, my friend. So what kind of squash? No doubt the Tahitian melon squash. Is that right? Guys, think about, okay, if we did 300, 400 orders of onions, okay, last year, and we did, and each one had 10 seeds in it for the squash, okay, and if even half the people, or even I don't know what the numbers are, but think about how many squash that could be. Think about how the chain reaction of that, just that. Think of how many of those exact Viking Tahitian melon squash are now out in the world. And then if you go to the farmer's market and they get those, and then they're going to save seeds because it's going to be delicious and they're going to store all winter long, they're going to be like, there's just going to be, that's a lot. So H. Witt says, "I'm still harvesting wine cap mushrooms from my garden. I spread the spawn over 5 years ago and harvest every spring and fall." That's nice. Now, how long does it fruit though? Because mine made like 50 mushrooms, boom, over the course of like 4 days, and then that's it. Now they're like, there's no more. You know, they fruited. So are they going to fruit again? Is that kind of thing? I'm keeping them relatively moist, so I'm wondering. Let's see here. It's not letting me go higher up. I can't really move around the comments right now. So the guys, one thing that, and I go over this in the Viking Cleanse course when I show you how to make the gut healing bone broth. One of the best things that you guys can make when you're making soups and stews or bone broth this fall is kombu. This kombu is totally changes the feel, the taste of the dish. If it's the bone broth or just a soup or a stew or ham and beans, you add some of this and it expands. It gets a lot bigger. It's a type of seaweed, and you see those minerals on it. That is all sea minerals, and it has a really umami flavor. In fact, it has the naturally occurring source of monosodium glutamate, which is back in the early 1900s or late 1800s. One of the Japanese scientists, they successfully, they didn't try, they succeeded in isolating the compound that made the umami flavor of the seaweed. Because when you add seaweed to something, guys, if you're used to making it without and then you add the seaweed, it just intensifies all the other flavors. It's amazing what it does. And it gives like a warm depth to the flavor without actually having a flavor itself. It's strange the way that it does. But the problem is that now all of the MSG, none of it comes from seaweed anymore. They've isolated it, and now they make synthetic versions of it, which are totally destructive and endocrine disrupting and all different kinds of stuff. But the naturally occurring sources, of course, are still perfectly safe because they are just in the natural food. And you're only getting real small amounts of its natural form. So for a whole pot of beans or something, you would tear like half of one of these, put it in there, let it simmer with the beans. Believe me, when you do that, you're going to think, whoa, the flavor is so much deeper and so much, it's like the missing ingredient. It is the secret ingredient, definitely. So we use it for all kinds of stuff. When I make the bone broth, I put like 10 of those things in there. I mean, it's full of iodine. There's not that many natural sources of iodine, but seaweed definitely has some. Along with all different kinds of minerals and things that we want. Yeah. Yes, that happens. Look to nature. That I've seen that as well. Kind of though, like MI Gardener sells long neck something or whatever. They're different. They're definitely different. If you guys could see the stock that these things came from, it was the first couple years when I was growing them. They were this big around, this big and like this long, and like 30 or 40 pounds, massive. But that's when I was doing the super deep mulch method over there at the Temple Garden. A lot of work. Are you really? Argo, what are you selling? Or what are you a supplier for? I mean, what is the thing? That's super, super cool. Oh, nice. Right, right. That's right. I forgot about that. That I did organize it in that way. Number one, man is a subset of nature, not separate from it. Nature has already perfected the process, and nature has designed everything to thrive. Definitely. I forgot that I used to promote it like that. And I don't know why I got away from that. Huh. Absolutely. I mean, I could expand on all of those things infinitely. So, but those are definitely the pillars. Huh. Yeah. Mm. Yes, nature has already designed everything to thrive, guys. We are one of the few creatures that don't just naturally thrive, or the creatures that are under our care will not thrive. But in nature, they're all thriving. Yes. Right. It's from the very first video. I mean, that's got me like all down memory lane right now, because that's how I used to explain it to people before I even started a YouTube channel and stuff. The seaweed is a Pacific Kombu, and it is in my Viking storefront. Now, it's typically like $7 for just a couple of sheets of it if you buy it in the small package. But I found a source, the good stuff. You get like 10 pounds of it. You get like 2 or 3 times this amount for $60, which will last you a long time. And it's dried, so it stays really good. And it's best if you make gut healing bone broth or nourishing bone broth, you want to be using that stuff. Bunch of it. So, Yes, Fabrizio, winter is coming in the Bay. The rainy season has started. Oh, that is such a wonderful time. That is such a wonderful time. In Northern California, when the rains start coming, it's amazing. Although it's like typically, if you've still got outdoor stuff, you're like scrambling to get it all done up and trimmed up and just trying to get it all huge rush, you know. Sometimes we've had huge 15-foot tall plants with several layers of trellis and stuff, and the rains will come and the plants just collapse. They haven't experienced rain on their leaves all year long. And so there's got big flowers on them like that, and then the rain comes and it just collapses. And so you're like, have to rush and work through the night and stuff to cut them and then hang them in these shacks and stuff, and it's a lot of work. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I know. We could go down that rabbit hole a long time, you know. But it is. I mean, when the rains come, it's all part of that, like letting it go as long as possible, and then when the rains come, because these flowers get so thick and dense that if they get wet, they're gonna rot, and we've lost half the crop, sometimes more than half the crop, to rot all year long. You're nurturing these things, and then just you're opening them up, and they're just full of fuzzy molds. Horrible. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I mean, you were still making out good, of course, but not anymore. It's very different. Um, so okay, guys. Well, we are going to let's see here. I had an oyster mushroom kit and grew a couple flushes. After I crumbled the medium onto my wood chips under my trees, I let them dry out these last few weeks. Any chance they'll grow again? It's hard saying. We've had hit or miss luck with that, actually. So we've had hit or miss luck with that. So when I had experience with wine caps, you know, you can just move some of the mycelium to different places. But a lot of mushrooms aren't that aggressive, and so but I've had them. That being said, you can take them, the substrate, crumble it up, and put straw. You have to keep it. You have to keep it moist. If it dries out, forget about it. You have to keep it moist, so put the straw over it. Put a whole bale of straw over it, and that will give you the best chances. And it's very possible that they can. Yes. So, all right, guys. Well, we are going to get heading on. Okay, we're going to cut this just a few minutes short, and we got some things that we need to do. And so, if you guys are shopping on Amazon, make sure that you do it through the Viking storefront. And if you guys got any questions for next week's show, just put them in the comments so we can talk about them. And be on the lookout for the Viking growing system courses that will be coming the beginning of the year. You guys will have your best year ever next year with that knowledge. Definitely, I'm sure of it. So um, we will we will see you guys next week. All right. Thanks a lot for being here, Tegan. I'm on my way. Real quick, Fabrizio says, Nate, the Vitamix you recommend is $600. Worth it? Um, That depends. And I didn't know it was that much now. The price has gone up a little bit, isn't it? Any of the Vitamixers will, I'm just showing you the best one, the one that is has been phenomenal. And I say it's worth it because it absolutely, if you're into making smoothies or nut butters or, I mean, in the Vitamix, we will take, it's a grain mill basically. So I will take this rock hard glass gem corn, put it into the Vitamixer, and just turn it on high, and it will pulverize it into absolute fine powder. I mean, and then we make grits with it or cornbread with it. I mean, it will do that, which are, these are basically like little pieces of stone. I mean, and it just laughs at that. I put whole fish in the Vitamixer when I make the hydrolysate, whole fish, bones and everything. Perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. And I traded mine in at Costco like a couple of months ago. I went in because Costco has lifetime, return policies. So I said, okay, I've had mine for years. And I took it back. I was like, it's overheating. And they're like, okay, no problem. You want to exchange it? I was like, yes. And so I got a brand new one. They give me I just got a brand new one. I brought it home and I've used it for a couple of months and it is literally no different. I mean, there's no improvement. And I thought there was going to be a huge improvement in performance. None. None. The blades, everything was still just as sharp. I mean, I don't notice any difference between this brand new one and the one that I was beating, pulverizing for years. So take that for what it is. Yeah. So there you go. Yeah. It is definitely worth having a Vitamixer. All the stuff that you're making, it's more than a blender. It's different. You can totally liquefy whatever you put in it, but within reason, of course. Okay. No, that was not a false ending. We're really going. We're really going this time. I just had to address that. Okay. Oh, $10, Alex 4K. Look at that. Good reason to stay on. Okay. Got to answer the question. Says, good morning, Nate and Tribe. If I have a plant that might be sick, should I pull it out by the roots or chop it ground level and leave it like I normally do? That depends on what it's sick with. But anymore, I'm all about, if the thing is displaying signs of infection and illness, just get the whole thing out of there. Just get it out of there, be safe, and compost tea, aerated compost tea to the area, and it will pretty much sort itself out. But I no longer am doing the thing where even sick and diseased crops and stuff, I'm just leaving chop and drop and stuff. I don't do that anymore. You're just asking for problems. So pull it out and I mean, depends on what it's with. I would even throw it away. I know. I've become hardcore about it though. I've become a stickler about it because I realize that in a high intensity garden like that, you just, that's valuable real estate, and it's not the same type of ecosystem it is on like in the forest, or like on a even different on a homestead scale, where there's animals involved and just different things. But in a high intensity home garden, get that thing out of there. Don't even compost it. Just throw it away. I know. And you will be happier for it. And apply some aerated compost tea and go for it. Yeah. Yeah. But definitely don't just cut it and let the roots. No, that's for healthy stuff. And that's if you're doing no-till, so it's different. So, okay. I hope that answered it. And we're for real going this time. Okay, bye.